Drones, drones, and drones. Seems like every day we hear somebody's flown a drone where they shouldn't have done. Yeah? So, how many people here actually fly drones? Okay, so there's a few people here. We've actually been working with drone data for, this is my 4th year, but this is the first year I've had my own drones. So we've been flying drone data in New Brunswick, and I get all the data to process. I'm primarily a remote sensing person, so this is, for me, the drone is the platform. And what's really important to me is what comes out of the drone. So we actually got 2 drones this year. We have our DJI Inspire, which is probably the Chevy. It's about $5,000, and it has the 1 camera on it, a single camera. And over here we have the Cadillac, which is the Dragonfly Commander. It's actually built by a company in Saskatoon. It's the oldest UAV company in Canada, and they make them for the RCMP. So I will talk about them a little bit in a minute. One of the things that we did discover when we got our drones is that there's a lot of rules and regulations. Transport Canada rules and regulations, and now on top of that, Ag Canada has put rules and regulations as well. And I think the Ag Canada ones might be even a little tougher. So basically, I have a little cheat sheet here. If you go to Best Buy and you buy a UAV, you may fly it if it's for a hobby, and you are not flying over somebody else's land, and you are not flying over a built-up area, and you are not near an airport. So you have to satisfy that, and it has to be a hobby. Well, obviously, we're not doing a hobby, we're doing work and research, so we have to go the other route. And these are more than 2 kilograms, so I don't have an exemption there. I have to get something else. There is another one here that you can get an exemption to fly it. Now, I think you told me there's 85 exemptions. 58 exemptions you have to satisfy. Well, we already know we're going to fly it on the research station. We can't get that. We can't get the exemption. We are within 9 kilometers of the city. We can't fly. We are within kilometer. You have to be more than 150 meters away from a major highway. So our land borders a major highway. We are also right here within 5 nautical miles of 4 aerodromes. You cannot fly within 5 nautical miles of an aerodrome without a special flight operations certificate. And one of the ones that is important is there's a helipad at the hospital. So we can't fly without our special flight operations certificate. So Gary has his special flight operations certificate. He went and he did ground school. He also went and did training on the UAVs. Ingrid has her radio operator certificate because we have to have a second person who has a radio operator certificate and can be in contact because we're on the flight path. The other thing that we have to do is every time we want to fly, Gary, and we're within that area, we have to fly a notice to airmen. So he has to put that in with Nav Canada in order that we can fly, so that the pilots know. And around here with the crop dusters, there are a lot of issues. So there's a lot of rules and regulations that you have to abide by. And if you don't abide by them, if I come out here and I fly it, my manager can get a $25,000 fine. I can get a $5,000 fine, and I may end up in jail. So, oh, and that's another interesting point. There's a lot of sensitivity about jails. So we do actually, I guess these drones are dropping stuff, so we actually notify them every time we fly, just so that they know that it's us and it's maybe not somebody doing a personal delivery to the jail. So, well, I was going to talk about it first, but Gary will go out and fly it in a little minute. What we cannot do is we cannot go past those red flags because he has to be at least 100 feet away from any group of people. So please don't go past the flags or we're in trouble. So this is just basically showing you what he has done prior to coming is he has located this plot, he has drawn a polygon in Google Earth, and he's put it into the software which is called our Mission Planner, and it's actually shareware, so it's not something we had to pay for. So we've got our polygon, and then we base on what speed we want to fly at, what overlap we want to have between our images. You then get a flight plan. And so this is a flight plan for a field that we did in New Brunswick. But every one of these little white dots is where it took a frame capture. So the camera captured it. Once we captured it, we then have to mosaic them together. And for 3 years, this has been our biggest bugbear, is trying to mosaic these together. If you look at a lot of the images that come out of these, they look really nice if you look at the field scale, but being somewhat into research, I tend to zoom in. And I've found a lot of mismatches in the images. So if I'm trying to do anything quantitative, it becomes a problem because I don't know if this row is actually this row. So then when I line them all up, it's a bit of an issue. So we've been working with it for quite some time. There are automatic processes to mosaic all of these together. We've actually had to go back to manual because we found all these mismatches. And in actual fact, last year, the camera system that they were flying in New Brunswick, we had a lot of mismatches, and we ended up going back to the company, and in the end, they got a new camera because there was a problem with the optics, and it was all mismatched. So you really have to look what you're looking for. Now, it all depends on what you want to do. If you want to have a nice picture that you want to go and look at, or you maybe want to scout with, fine. If you want to do something quantitative, not so good. So this one here, if you look at the bottom, it has a single camera. It's like a consumer grade digital camera, and I don't know how much people know about cameras, but they're actually optimized for you to find a picture appealing. It's not a true color. It's actually synthesized color. So if I'm trying to do something that we're trying to apply what comes from a satellite to this, I don't have the right bands. So we've actually calibrated all these cameras so we know exactly which wavelengths it's measuring, and we know what intensity it will do. So this one takes in, it's just an RGB camera. And this one here is a deluxe, but you can see that there's 5 little circles there. There's 5 individual cameras in there. So those 5 cameras collect reflectance they collect light in the red, the green, the blue, the near infrared, and the red edge. So they're individual cameras, so there's no contamination between the different wavelengths. And if we look at the top of this one, I'm even scared to lift it up. This here, I don't know if you can see, there's a little red thing on the top. Right here. This is an incident light sensor, and this is actually the first one they ever fitted to these. But this incident light sensor has 5 little white areas in there. One is for the red, one is for the blue, one is for the green, one's for the near infrared. And what it does is it measures the light that's coming down, so you can ratio the light that's coming be reflected, so you can get to a ratio. And so everyone, if I flew this right now, you can see there's clouds some places, there's clouds not other places. So the reflectance is quite different. But because I'm measuring for every frame, I'm measuring what's coming down, I can ratio every frame to what's coming up. So I end up with calibrated data that I can use. And that data is all reflectance. So if I do it 2 or 3 days, I've always got values that are meaningful. They're not relative, they're absolute values. And one of the other neat things that works with it, I'm just going to show you this one if I can. This one here, this was taken with a camera, not this one, but one that has an incident light sensor. This is the field processed without the incident light information, so it's just a digital number like a camera. And you can see all the clouds through here. This is when I use the ratioing. So I've got rid of all my clouds, and now I have a value that's actually reflectance. So with that, we'll send Gary off because he has to get it all uplinked and everything sorted out. He's going to go out there. Ingrid is going to go out there too, so that if anything happens, we have a radio operator there. And I'm going to stay out the way. So, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, you can pass them around if you want. So, what are we doing with this? What do we want to do with it? Like, there's lots and lots of people out there flying these things. They give you a nice picture. They give you a picture that you could then go and look at problem areas in the field. What we're trying to do with it is, the one that's just got the regular camera, we look at things like, for plant breeders, we're looking at canopy closure. So it helps them in order to, instead of taking notes all the time, it's like, can we tell you when you get how many days to canopy closure? Can we tell you when it starts to die back? Some of the other things that we're doing with that one is invasive weed species, because primarily what we're looking at is color. So we're looking at leafy spurge, which has a yellow flower. It reflects quite differently. So can we take a drone, fly it down the river valley, and then get an indication of how much leafy spurge is there? I have a colleague that has, he does biological control. Well, he's looking for a tool that would let him go back 5 years later and say, oh, I obliterated 50% or 100%. So we're doing a lot of stuff where it's just visual stuff we're looking at, and we're trying to differentiate different colors. With the other one, what we're trying to do with this particular one is get more to where we can get to biomass. Can we estimate actual biomass levels? And you can't really do that without calibrated data, because you want to make sure that your data is the same through time. As the light conditions change, if you don't have a calibrated system, the values will be different. So with this one, we can get to the point where we can calibrate the system and we can track it over time.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but could you talk a little bit louder?
A little bit louder? Okay.
Thanks.
So I don't know, have you all heard of like the normalized difference vegetation index? It seems to be a really popular one. I don't like it. But until I had calibrated data, I couldn't do anything else with it. Now the normalized difference vegetation index, all you're looking at is a ratio between reflectance in the red and the near infrared. And as your biomass increases, your NDVI will go up, but then it plateaus. So in my potato, it'll increase to about 65 days after planting, then it plateaus, but my biomass hasn't plateaued. So with this new system, we've been testing a number of different vegetation indices, and I have one that will increase up to 100 days. It just keeps increasing. And my relationship with biomass was 0.8. So it was pretty good, and that was over 4 fields, 6 dates in New Brunswick. So what we did was we got a regression equation out of that, and we can calculate the biomass in a field. So these are just some of our biomass maps where we actually convert it to biomass. And we have low biomass, medium, and high, but we can actually quantify it now. We have sample sites in here that we're quantifying. And we can track it over time. And in New Brunswick, the whole purpose was that their potato yields are stagnating, and they think it's because of soil-borne pests and diseases, but they need to stratify their fields in order to go and sample for it. So that's really what we're trying to do, is give them some sampling areas that they could go and look at. So that's what we're doing with that one. We're also going to go to Ken's spots where he's done his simulated hail. So we can estimate the area of hail damage, but we're also looking at the regeneration, and can we measure the biomass that's coming back, and can we do it in a quantitative fashion. So really what I'm about is, I work with satellites, I work with aircraft, I work with ground-based sensors. Now I'm trying to take the drone as a platform, but I want to get to the point where the data is equivalent to these instruments that are highly scientific, so that then you have a repeatable system that you can use over time. And if I go to field A, the numbers actually are similar to the numbers in field B, and I can put them all together. If you just have a digital camera, it changes the white balance, it changes all these things, so then your numbers aren't actually equal. So that's what we're trying to do right now. So, I don't know if he's going to put it up there. Those that have them, have you crashed it? There are 2 types of UAV systems. There's the fixed wing, and there is the copter ones. Now, Gary can only go as high as 100 feet because we're within the aerodromes. So we chose to go with the copter one because we can go straight up and down. The other people that we're working with have the fixed wing. The fixed wing has a much longer battery life, but for what we wanted to do, we decided that we just wanted to go up and down. So what we're trying to figure out right now is, what field of view do we have? What angular impacts do we have? What overlap do we need? All those kind of things. And some people fly them from like 7. I had a bit of a fit because the people in New Brunswick are flying them from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. Well, how does your sun angle change? Like we only fly between 10 and 2, which then I think gets the point that is it really a commercial venture? For what I want to do it for, it's okay because I'm only on small plot. But if you want a commercial venture, I'm not quite sure. I reckon you could probably fly 4 fields between 10 and 2. Because it takes like 20 minutes to fly a quarter, right? No, it programs it based on what speed you want and what overlap you want in the area. So it has on occasion decided to go its own way. So part of your SFOC is you have to show them that you have a plan in place for an emergency. So
can you locate it if it gets hidden somewhere?
Sometimes not. I do actually have he's actually an RCMP officer and he bought one just for fun. His is in the lake at Nicholas Sharon. He lost total communication and it's in the lake. So it's like...
How heavy are these?
I'm not sure how heavy that one is. I need to ask. It's a little bit more than the 2. It's above the 2.
How much wind can it tolerate?
They say 35
Down here?
kilometers per hour. I debate that because the problem that you have is if you have 35, it captures the frame, but there's a little bit of shake. So when you actually mosaic them together, you get all this fuzzy stuff, which is not good.
No.
So there's a lot of, I talk to a lot of people and I say, oh, how are your images? And they say, fine. And I say, well, do you not have any problem with mosaic? And they say, no, but I don't think they're zoning in the way I do. Because I'm really, like, we have sample points that are like 1 meter or 5 meters. Well, you go into that sample point and
Then you can see it.
it's all fuzzy.
Right.
So that's from that height you're getting 1 meter?
No, well, no, this one, where it is right now, every pixel is probably about a centimeter. So every pixel in a picture represents 1 centimeter on the ground.
How high is he there?
I think he's only about 20 meters. Here he can go to 32.5, which we worked out yesterday is probably about 2 centimeter. But your SFOC lets you fly to 300, but not within the 5 nautical miles of an aerodrome. And I mean, it was a surprise to me how many aerodromes there are here, because we got the Nav Canada maps, and there's 5 right here, and that's not including the airport. So there's a lot of them.
Can you help us with that definition? What's
An
an aerodrome?
aerodrome is any kind of landing strip.
Any landing.
Any landing strip. Yes. Yes. So there are a lot of restrictions in place, and I actually think it's going to get worse. I saw on the Transport Canada site yesterday that they're going to bring out new rules in 2017. So I suspect when you see all these cases where they had to stop the water bombers in Fort McMurray because somebody's flying a drone, you know, and when you hit an aircraft.
They're developing a site in Foremost for all this.
They actually do have one.
Oh, they have one already?
They do have it in Foremost. It's the Canadian Centre for Unmanned Aerial Vehicles. And it's down there because there's not too much there. But what they're trying to prove there is, like, you have to have line of sight. So you have to see it. What they're trying to prove down at Foremost is that you don't need line of sight.
If it works properly.
But we have on occasion lost communication.
Yeah.
So
As long as you're away from Nicholas Sharon, you'll be fine.
as long as you're not within 9 kilometers of built-up area. And I asked, well, what's a built-up area? And they told me 2 buildings. So,
House in the hand now.
you know, working for the federal government, you kind of have to be careful. So we do everything by the book. So, but it is interesting when you see all the people that are flying them and you're kind of going, no, I don't think so.
How much
So
was
the
this
fixed wing UAVs, you can probably get, I think I've heard you can get a lot more data, like a lot more coverage.
They'll fly for 30 to 40 minutes. These ones here, we have 2 sets of batteries.
Yeah.
So probably we can fly one of them about 12 to 15 minutes, and then we have to change the battery. You could fly it for 20,
Yeah.
but we're getting to the point where it's like,
So with the fixed wing units that are out there, do they still have the ability for the light compensation?
you
And
can
do they
put
have
these cameras
resolution?
on them. Like the one that we use in New Brunswick is not this particular camera, it's a multi-spec, and it has the instant light sensor too. But to me, that's key. Pardon? What, the multi-spec? Multi-spec came out 2 years ago. It's the Sequoia you're probably thinking of. The Sequoia has, the instant light sensor has 4 bands, but it also has an RGB camera in it.
There's also the slant ranger just came out.
Right. So we used it last year, and it was pretty awesome.
So, can you tell us what that one's worth?
This one?
Yeah.
This one was 25,000. It was a deal, and then my camera system was another 15,000.
15.
Yeah.
So when it falls out of the sky, is it catastrophic or can you overhaul the thing?
Well, that one fell out of the sky, and that one the rotors are actually only like $17. This one they're much more expensive. So these ones are, and there was a little nick in one of these, and it. Yeah, the balance goes. So there's a lot of things that you have to.
So expensive to buy and expensive to keep using.
Oh, you just have to be careful, right? Like these ones here, like I even heard that the DJI Inspire is even cheaper now. But you've only got that one camera. One of the things we're thinking about is trying to put that camera onto the DJI and see, because really what I'm interested in the data that comes out, not so much the platform. For me, the platform is the platform. But
They have the Patrice platform,
yes,
just one step off the
yeah,
Inspire, and I know that's what they've been running different types of aftermarket.
right. But you got to be careful with the balance, right? When you start moving all these things around. So, but I mean, they're pretty neat. But there are a lot of things that, in our experience, we've had a lot of issues. You know, cloud cover is an issue. Like specular reflectance, actually the ones that Gary did this one yesterday, and he used the Inspire. And we see little halos in some of the pictures. We reckon it's because it's white and it's reflecting off it. So now he wants to spray it with matte black. This one's matte black. It actually comes with an orange top, but I asked him to make it black so that everything is black. But we're thinking that this little halo is because there's reflectance off the drone itself.
You can buy a black version.
Yeah, but some people are just painting them. I says, well, you can paint it as long as you don't upset the balance, right? So, I don't know. That's what we're going to try to. But lots of different things. I got lots of pictures there if people want to see pictures. This one here is, this is a site where we have leafy spurge. So this was flown with a fixed wing, and it has a lot of leafy spurge. So you can see all this leafy spurge here and here. So what we did was we took the picture and we did an analysis. We did a certain kind of spectral analysis on it. And now all these polygons, the red polygons, are where I think the leafy spurge is. So they're actually going out this summer to validate those. So it would help them fly up the pipelines and through the river valleys and all those kind of things. So that's some of the things we're doing.
So on Twitter, I've seen people talking about spraying with the drones and stuff like that.
They do it in Japan. They do it in Japan already. They spray. Like one of the other things that we were talking about was some of the people at the research station do air quality, and they're collecting from one spot over time. Well, we said, well, could we fly all over this area with your little cotton thing in there and just collect over a larger area and see if we can do that as well, because then it's not a single spot they're looking at.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all sorts of things. I've heard some people are using them for actually collecting water samples. And one guy in Ottawa I was talking to about, he's using it for underwater stuff. I don't know quite how he does that, but there's all sorts of applications. I mean, what you have to decide is what do you want out of it? Because if you don't know what you want out of it, then you're shooting at the stars.
Canada
So-
Post is also using drones.
They will never use them. They said they're going to use it, right? That was recent. But I would like to ask how they can do that when they can't satisfy the 9 kilometers from a built-up area. In Lethbridge, they can't satisfy 9 kilometers from the airport.
It's those long drives to Etzicum, they say.
So, I mean, they might be able to get a special flight operation certificate, but even then, we have to fly 100 feet from a group of people. We can't fly around a group of people. So, we were talking about it this morning. It's like, well, how do they do that when you've got all these rules in place? So, I'm
How are
not
they
sure.
going to satisfy the union? Wouldn't that be the bigger thing?
Well, yeah, there's that one too.
Trying to account for one job, and that would be it.
They all have to go and take their flight training.
Oh,
So, then they can all
2
kind
for
of
1. Yeah.
do it. So it's really, I mean, it's an interesting field. It's just, there are so many things that you don't think of in terms of flying them and in terms of what the data looks like. So,
Are you looking at the ground drones too? I know Ken mentioned it this morning, but are you doing some of that work too? Like
no, he asked me.
oh, okay.
He asked me about it because we have done ground-based
Yeah.
just spectrometer stuff. So
Yeah. But not actually sort of the robotics that go. Yeah.
I'm not an engineer. So it's like my thing is the data and analyzing the data. So, and it's kind of like the platform is the platform. I mean, one of the things with the drone is for research plots, I can get down to a centimeter. In actual fact, a centimeter is overkill because you see every shadow.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, a lot of the times we degrade the data because it's too much. So, but that's kind of my thing is like, what does the data look like, and can I get to something that's quantitative information? Like, they're great for scouting because you can see all that stuff, but can we get to the point where we actually have something quantitative? And I think we can, given that we're looking. Then I can fly at whatever day I like because the clouds aren't an issue anymore. But today would be like a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah. Yes.
So.
That was a perfect example. And this one, what are these ones? Did you say already?
This one was 25 and then 15 for my camera. This is like the Cadillac. That one's like the Chevy and it was about 5.
So 5 to 45 cents.
You can get cheaper ones.
Yeah.
So it depends what you want to do with it. I mean, we think there's some things we can do with just the regular digital camera, but there's some things that we can't. So, you know, you have to, and I mean, one of my things would be if somebody wants to use it, the first thing I ask them is, what do you want out of it? Because if I don't know that, I have no hope. Yeah. Yeah.
You said the RCMP uses this one?
They have used this one, yes, for quite a few years.
Just for investigating from a...
Well, actually, you can put different cameras on here. Like this one has an optical camera, but you can put a thermal. So they use the thermals for search and rescue.
Right.
So they use it for that. Some people have put LiDAR on it, so they can get elevation.
So can they fly in town or whatever? Or are they...
No, if you don't satisfy the requirements of Transport Canada,
Oh, yeah.
you can fly it, but don't get caught.
A couple of years ago, I came on an accident in a rural area at an intersection.
They
and
use
were
that,
using
yeah.
one of these to take photos. Photos of the
Yeah.
entire accidents.
Yeah, they do that.
Try to understand.
Yeah. But they will all have their special flight operations certificate. And they will have to file, if they're going to be near an airport, they'll have to file their NOTAMs so that they know that flying.
Yeah.
This one.
But yeah, I know you have certain heights that you can go to.
Yeah.
So
Do you know how high they can fly?
I don't know how high they can fly, but I think I was reading that if you go to CBC, you'll find just about every day there's something about drone.
Yeah.
And there was one in Ottawa that a WestJet pilot coming into land, there was a drone right by him. And somebody asked him what height it was. It was something like 700 feet. And they said, no, that's impossible. And then another pilot saw the same one, and he checked, and it was 700 feet. Well, legally, you can't fly that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard people flying them at like 1,000 feet. But it's okay as long as you don't get caught, you don't have an accident,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't risk it.
Sweet.
I understand most of the commercial agronomy service providers are working on some form of application on scouting. Are any of them kind of getting close to a commercial application that's?
Well, I mean, a lot of them do scouting, and they could tell. I mean, basically, you have a red, green, blue camera, or you have a near infrared camera. All that can tell you is the concentration of chlorophyll per unit area.
Right.
Now, whether that's due to, if you have a differential, is it due to different amounts of vegetation, or is it due to one that is chlorotic and one that's not?
Yeah.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah. So
Because
so the first use is like you described in Nova Scotia on the potatoes. If you can aerially establish where there's differentiation,
Yes.
then you go in and determine the reason for the difference.
Right. And I mean, it may be, I think a lot of the time you can use it with your contextual knowledge.
Right.
I had somebody tell me that their drone could see disease, and I says, no, it can't. Your drone can tell you that that vegetation
Growth or no growth.
is got no growth, and by the contextual information, the circle it's in, you can tell me what it is.
Right.
But the drone can't tell you that.
That's right.
And that's the key point.
Interpretation.
Yes. You're not just going to put it up there and it's going to tell you it's disease. You have to have contextual knowledge.
So I think we're going to break for lunch now. If you guys could join me in thanking Anne and Gary, Surya, and I see Shama is over here too. Thanks a lot for showing us your stuff. Of course, you're welcome to pin her down and continue the conversation, but lunch is...